The game we're going to preview today is all about learning. You play as a young scholar who must go out into the world to research while collaborating with other students. Once you've collected enough information, you get to submit your thesis to, no, it's got monsters and backstabbing, and just stick around. It's actually pretty cool. Dungeonology the Expedition is an atypical dungeon crawler for 1 to 4 players, created by Ludus Magnus Studio. In the game, you play as a young scholar who has dreams of becoming the next professor of dungeonology. Before you can do so, however, you must submit the best thesis to prove that you're the right person for the job. To gather the information needed to complete your thesis, you'll have to explore a perilous dungeon and observe the unique and dangerous race that dwells there. Oh, and you'll have a little friendly competition as well. There will be other students vying for that coveted professor position, and they are willing to sabotage you and your efforts if it gives them a leg up. Trying to sabotage all the scholars are students from the infamous Omega fraternity, who are trying to take control of the entire university. In the game, players choose one of 4 available characters. Each one has their own skills, unique attributes, and requirements, such as students accompanying the scholar, the amount of cards in their hand, movement speed, and more. You'll also need to choose which version of the boss you want to go up against, the difficulty, and randomly choose a panic card and a clan card, which will dictate the requirements you'll need to submit a successful thesis. Once the characters are selected, they all start in the encampment. Players will then head out into the dungeon to collect information cubes to complete their thesis. There are 5 types of information cubes to collect, and each has their own score value. Civilization cubes are worth 2 points. Militia cubes are worth 3 points, worship cubes are worth 4 points, riches cubes are worth 5 points, and caste cubes are worth 6 points. A player can move as far as their card indicates. Valerio has a movement of 4, so he's allowed to move up to 4 spaces. When moving, you must decide which direction you want to go, and then reveal a tile for that level and connect it to the previous tile. Each tile is a combination of information cubes and zone effects. There are 3 levels in total, and the risks and rewards increase the further you descend. When a scholar attempts to collect information cubes from a zone, they must beat the alert value of that tile using cards from their hand to generate a stealth value equal to or greater to the alert value. The alert value increases based on how many information cubes you're attempting to collect. Even if the player produces the appropriate stealth value, other players get a chance to play a card of their own to increase the alert value in an attempt to force the player to fail. Once all opposing players are given a chance to increase the alert value, the player gets one last chance to play a trick card to achieve their goal. If they're successful, they get to add those cubes to their noteboard. If they fail, they acquire an exhaustion token. If a player acquires 3 exhaustion tokens, they're forced to take a rest action and return back to the encampment. You aren't in this completely alone, however. Each scholar has a troop of students available to them. These students can be sacrificed if traps are triggered or to perform actions. Sometimes you're forced to draw students from the university bag in order to execute card actions. This can be risky because if you happen to draw a student from the Omega fraternity, the difficulty of the game increases for everyone. If you draw a regular student, they're added to the campus, which players use in order to refill their students. Other scholars and the Omega fraternity may be formidable opponents, but they aren't the only ones standing in your way. The race inhabiting the dungeon has its own boss that isn't thrilled with the trespassers in their domain. The Fauns have Leatus defending their territory, and there are 2 variations to choose from, which react differently: Quarrelsome and Drunk Leatus. The boss will enter the dungeon the first time a player enters a zone with the boss effect in it. The boss will then travel around the dungeon, causing problems for the players for the rest of the game. When players acquire enough information cubes, they obtain a star. Once they do this, any player that has less stars gets exalted, which gives them buffs and allows other players a chance to catch up. Once a player gains 2 stars, they're allowed to submit their thesis. The player can then secretly view the clan card and calculate their score by adding up the points gained from their information cubes and adding or subtracting the modifiers listed. If they succeed, they get bonus points for being the first to submit their thesis, but that doesn't mean they automatically win the game. If it hasn't already, the panic card is activated, forcing players to rush through if they want to submit their thesis before the game ends. After gameplay ends, players calculate the total Thesis score with modifiers, and the player with the most points is elected the new Dungeonology Professor. The game will include 4 Scholar models, a Laotis boss model, a boss card, a campus tile, 3 panic cards, 3 alert cards, 3 clan cards, a university bag, 45 student models, 64 information cubes, 19 zone tiles, 100 trick cards, 16 randomizer cards, 15 jinx cards, 10 intern cards, 4 note boards, 4 scholar cards, and 36 tokens. Since the Kickstarter is already live, there have also been a variety of stretch goals already unlocked. Dungeonology's unique twist on dungeon crawlers in the fact that you aren't there to fight monsters, you're there to study them. So your main opponents are the other players trying to sabotage you. There appears to be an awful lot of replayability to the game. Not only does the dungeon layout change each time, but you have all the different clan cards, boss cards, difficulties, and panic cards that'll keep you on your toes. If this seems like the kind of game that'll tickle your fancy, make sure to check out Dungeonology on Kickstarter, which has already blown past its goal. And don't forget to keep checking back to Board Game Revolution for other board game info, previews, and series such as The Design Room, where Marco interviews industry professionals and gives you a peek behind the scenes on some of the things that go into developing a board game. I'm Tony with Board Game Revolution, and I'll see you in my next video.